Do you believe that parallel worlds actually exist? What if we told you right now that there are hidden files, documents, and evidence from alternate realities that have somehow crossed into our world? And even more unsettling, what if the people who brought them here vanished without a trace immediately after? If you're thinking this sounds like pure science fiction, and that there must be some logical explanation for everything, then we're extremely curious to see how you'll explain these 10 mysterious cases. These aren't just stories. These are documented incidents involving real people, real evidence, and real disappearances that nobody has ever been able to solve. So, let's jump straight into the first one. And this one will absolutely blow your mind. In March of 2019, a leather-bound journal appeared on the doorstep of a small publishing house in Kyoto, Japan. The package had no return address, no postage, and no explanation. But when the editor, Yuki Tanaka, opened it and began reading, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The journal was written in flawless Japanese, dated entries spanning from 2087 to 2092, and described a world that looked almost exactly like ours, but with terrifying differences. Cities had different names, historical events had occurred in reverse order, and most disturbing of all, the author claimed to be documenting his final days before a dimensional collapse that would erase his entire reality. The handwriting was frantic toward the end, and the final entry simply read, "I'm crossing over, forgive me." 3 days after the journal arrived, Yuki Tanaka disappeared from her locked apartment, leaving behind only a note that said, "I understand now." Yuki had been working at Moonstone Publishing for over 15 years. She was known for being rational, methodical, and extremely skeptical of anything supernatural. Her colleagues described her as the last person who would fall for a hoax or believe in something like parallel worlds. But when she opened that journal and started reading the entries, something changed. She called her assistant into her office that first day and said, with absolute seriousness, "This isn't fiction. Someone actually lived this." Now, imagine what she was reading. The journal's author, who signed his name as Takahashi Kenji, described a version of Japan where Tokyo had been renamed New Kyoto after a devastating earthquake in 2043. He wrote about a world where World War II had ended differently, where certain technologies had been invented decades earlier, and where social structures had evolved in completely opposite directions. But here's what makes this absolutely fascinating. Takahashi didn't just describe these differences casually. He documented them with the precision of a historian who knew his world was ending. He included maps, newspaper clippings that he had somehow attached to the pages, and even photographs that showed familiar Japanese landmarks with subtle but undeniable differences. The entries became more desperate as they progressed through the years. Takahashi wrote about noticing reality fractures starting in 2089. He described seeing buildings flicker in and out of existence. He mentioned people disappearing mid-conversation, simply ceasing to exist as if they had never been born. By 2091, he was documenting the complete breakdown of his dimension. Entire cities were vanishing. The sky itself was showing cracks, he wrote, like shattered glass. And in his final entries from early 2022, Takahashi wrote that he had discovered something incredible, a way to cross over into a parallel reality before his own completely collapsed. Yuki spent 3 days studying the journal, barely sleeping, barely eating. She brought it to linguistic experts who confirmed the Japanese was authentic and sophisticated. She showed the photographs to analysts who couldn't explain certain architectural impossibilities they contained. She even consulted with physicists who admitted that theoretical models of parallel universes could, in theory, allow for dimensional crossings. But then something happened that shocked everyone who knew her. On the evening of March 18, 2019, Yuki called her sister and said something absolutely chilling. She said, "I know where Takahashi came from. I know how he got here, and I think I know where he is now." The next morning, the superintendent of her apartment building discovered her door was locked from the inside. When police finally broke in, the apartment was empty. Yuki's phone was on her kitchen table. Her keys were in the bowl by the door. Her shoes were still in the entryway. Everything was exactly as she would have left it if she had simply stepped out for a moment. Except Yuki Tanaka was gone, and on her desk, written in her handwriting on a piece of paper, was a note that said only, "I understand now." The journal disappeared along with her. Moonstone Publishing claims they never received any such manuscript. Yuki's assistant, who saw it with her own eyes, was told by management that she must have been mistaken. To this day, absolutely no one can explain what happened to Yuki Tanaka or where the Takahashi manuscript came from. Some skeptics say Yuki staged her own disappearance, that she was under stress and needed to escape her life. Others think the journal was an elaborate art project that Yuki took too seriously, leading to some kind of psychological break. But here's what nobody can explain. How did Yuki leave a locked apartment without her keys or shoes? Where did the manuscript go? And most unsettling of all, if Takahashi's world was collapsing in 2092, and he claimed to be crossing over, then where exactly did he cross over to? So, was the Takahashi manuscript really a document from a dying parallel world? Did Yuki Tanaka discover the truth about dimensional crossings and follow Takahashi across? Or is there some logical explanation that we're all missing? A thought that is as terrifying as it is absolutely fascinating. What would you do if you discovered medical files from a hospital that doesn't exist in our world? In October 2011, a box of patient records was found in the basement of an abandoned building in Manchester, England. The files were labeled Blackwood Memorial Hospital and contained detailed medical charts, x-rays, and treatment notes for dozens of patients. But here's what makes this case so deeply unsettling. When researchers tried to verify the information, they discovered that Blackwood Memorial Hospital has never existed anywhere in England. Not now, not ever. The addresses listed in the files led to empty lots or completely different buildings. The doctors' names couldn't be found in any medical registry. And the patients? Several of them matched the names of real people, but their medical histories were completely different. Broken bones that never happened, surgeries that were never performed, diseases they never had. The researcher who discovered these files, a historian named Marcus Chen, spent 6 months investigating their origin. Then one morning, in April 2012, he simply didn't show up for work. His apartment was empty, his car was still in the garage, and he was never seen again. Marcus Chen was a medical historian at the University of Manchester, specializing in documenting the history of healthcare facilities throughout England. He had spent his entire career meticulously cataloging hospitals, clinics, and medical institutions going back centuries. So, when he was hired to survey an abandoned administrative building on Deansgate for potential historical artifacts, he thought it would be a routine assignment. He couldn't have been more wrong. The box was tucked away in a corner of the basement, covered in dust, but otherwise in pristine condition. Inside were 43 patient files, each several pages thick, complete with intake forms, treatment plans, prescription records, and even X-ray films. The files were dated between 2003 and 2009, which meant they were relatively recent. Marcus immediately recognized the professional formatting and medical terminology. These weren't forgeries created by someone without medical knowledge. These were authentic hospital records, or at least they appeared to be. But when Marcus started cross-referencing the information, everything fell apart. The hospital's listed address, 247 Wilmslow Road, was the location of a grocery store that had been there since the 1980s. The phone number led to a disconnected line, and when he searched through every medical database in England, absolutely no record of Blackwood Memorial Hospital existed anywhere. Not in current registries, not in historical archives, not even in planning documents or construction permits. It was as if this hospital had never been built in our reality. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. Marcus began looking up the patients named in the files. Several of them were real people, living in Manchester. So Marcus, being the thorough researcher he was, contacted 5 of them to ask about their medical histories. The conversations were absolutely baffling. One file documented a man named Peter Holbrook receiving treatment for a broken leg in 2005 at Blackwood Memorial. But when Marcus spoke to the real Peter Holbrook, he confirmed he had never broken his leg. Ever. Another file showed a woman named Sarah Mitchell undergoing emergency appendix surgery in 2007. But Sarah still had her appendix. She'd never had any surgery at all. Think about this for a moment. These weren't just random names. These were real people with matching birth dates and addresses. But their medical histories in the Blackwood files were completely different from their actual medical histories in our world. Marcus became convinced he had discovered something massive. He told colleagues that the files must have come from a parallel version of Manchester, where Blackwood Memorial Hospital actually existed, and where these people had experienced different medical events. Marcus spent 6 months obsessively documenting everything. He photographed every page, interviewed the patients he could find, consulted with medical professionals who confirmed the records looked authentic, and even tracked down the equipment manufacturers listed on the X-ray films. Everything checked out technically. The files were real medical documents. They just documented a reality that didn't match ours. In March 2012, Marcus told his research partner that he had finally figured out where the files came from. He said he believed there was a specific location in Manchester, where the boundaries between parallel realities were thin, and that the files had somehow slipped through. He said he was going to that location to investigate further. On April 3, 2012, Marcus didn't show up for a scheduled lecture at the university. His colleagues went to his apartment and found the door unlocked. Inside, everything was in order. His computer was still on, displaying his research notes about Blackwood Memorial. His coffee cup was half full on the desk. His coat was hanging by the door. But Marcus Chen was gone. Police conducted a thorough investigation, but found absolutely no trace of him. His bank accounts were never accessed again. His phone was found in his apartment. His car remained in the parking garage. To this day, absolutely no one knows what happened to Marcus Chen. Some skeptics argue that Marcus fabricated the entire story and staged his disappearance to escape personal problems. Others think he simply had a psychological episode and wandered off. But here's what they can't explain. Multiple witnesses saw the Blackwood files. The patients Marcus interviewed confirmed he had showed them documents with their names and personal information. And most unsettling of all, the files themselves disappeared along with Marcus. The university claims they never received any such documents. So were the Blackwood Hospital records really evidence from a parallel Manchester? Did Marcus Chen discover the truth about how information crosses between realities and follow that path himself? Or is there some rational explanation that makes sense of medical files from a hospital that never existed? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely fascinating at the same time. Imagine looking at a photograph of your own city, but everything is slightly wrong. The buildings are in different places. The street signs have names you've never heard of. And in the crowd of people, you see your own face staring back at you. This is exactly what happened in Riverside, California in 2016. When a set of 37 photographs appeared in a manila envelope at the local police station. The photos showed Riverside, but not the Riverside that exists in our reality. The famous Mission Inn Hotel was replaced by a massive glass tower. The City Hall building was painted bright red instead of its traditional beige. And most disturbing of all, several photos showed crowds of people at events that never happened in our timeline. A detective named Sarah Ramirez took on the case, determined to find out who had taken these photographs and why. She spent months analyzing every detail, consulting with photo experts, and interviewing residents. Then one evening, she called her partner and said she had finally figured it out. She said she knew where the photographs came from and that she was going to prove it. That was the last time anyone ever heard from her. The envelope arrived on the morning of June 14, 2016, dropped off at the front desk of the Riverside Police Department with no return address and no note. The desk sergeant initially thought it might be evidence for an ongoing case, so he opened it and found the stack of photographs inside. They appeared to be standard color prints, the kind you might get from any photo lab. But when he started looking through them, he realized something was deeply off. These weren't pictures of the Riverside he knew. Detective Sarah Ramirez had been with the department for 12 years and had a reputation for being detail-oriented and skeptical of anything that didn't make logical sense. When the photographs landed on her desk, she approached them as a potential hoax or art project. But the more she examined them, the less sense any rational explanation made. The photos were too consistent, too detailed, and too precisely wrong to be simple fabrications. Take the Mission Inn Hotel photograph, for example. In our reality, the Mission Inn is a historic Spanish-style building that's been a Riverside landmark since 1902. But in this photograph, that entire block was occupied by a sleek glass and steel tower that looked like it belonged in downtown Los Angeles. The architecture was modern, probably from the 1990s or early 2000s. And here's what makes this absolutely insane. The photograph showed the building from street level with people walking by, cars parked in front, and even a readable sign that said Riverside Tower Hotel. Sarah had the photo analyzed by digital forensics experts who confirmed it showed no signs of manipulation, no Photoshop, no compositing, no digital alterations. It was a genuine photograph of something that shouldn't exist. But then Sarah discovered something that sent chills down her spine. In one photograph showing a crowd at what appeared to be a street festival on Main Street, she recognized someone. It was Jennifer Morrison, a local business owner Sarah had known for years. Jennifer was clearly visible in the crowd, wearing a blue dress and sunglasses. Sarah showed Jennifer the photo, and Jennifer confirmed it looked exactly like her. But here's the problem. Jennifer had absolutely no memory of attending any festival like the one in the photograph. She didn't own a blue dress like that. And when they checked the calendar, there had been no street festival in Riverside on the date the photo appeared to have been taken. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. Sarah found 3 more photographs showing people she recognized from Riverside. All of them confirmed they looked like themselves in the photos, but none of them remembered being at those locations or events. It was as if the photographs had captured alternate versions of these people living in a slightly different Riverside. Think about how terrifying that is. Somewhere, there might be another version of you living a different life, and someone just happened to photograph them. Sarah spent 5 months investigating every angle. She consulted with photo experts from UCLA who confirmed the images were genuine photographs, not digital creations. She interviewed historians about Riverside's development, trying to find out if any of the buildings in the photos had ever been proposed or planned. She even reached out to physicists who studied parallel universe theories. By November 2016, Sarah had become convinced that the photographs were somehow windows into an alternate Riverside, a parallel reality where the city had developed differently. She documented everything in detailed reports that she kept separate from official police records. Her partner, Detective Michael Torres, later told investigators that Sarah had become obsessed with the case. She talked constantly about dimensional thin spots and reality overlaps. On the evening of November 28, 2016, Sarah called Michael and told him she had finally solved the mystery. She said, "I know where these photos came from. There's a specific location in Riverside where the barrier is thin. I'm going there right now to prove it." Michael asked where, but Sarah said she needed to confirm it first. She promised to call him back within an hour. She never called back. When Michael went to her apartment the next morning, he found her car in the parking lot and her phone on the kitchen counter. Her front door was locked from the inside, but Sarah was gone. Police searched extensively, but found not a single trace of her. The 37 photographs disappeared along with her, and the police department claims they have no record of ever receiving such an envelope. Some people think Sarah fabricated the whole thing and ran away to start a new life. Others believe she had a mental breakdown and the photographs were part of a delusion. But here's what nobody can explain. Multiple witnesses saw the photographs, including other police officers and the forensics experts Sarah consulted. Michael Torres insists the photos were real and showed impossible things. And most unsettling of all, how did Sarah vanish from a locked apartment? So, were the Riverside photographs really glimpses into a parallel reality? Did Sarah Ramirez discover the exact location where dimensions overlap and cross over herself? Or is there some explanation we're missing? And if there really is another Riverside out there, does that mean there's another version of you too? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time. In August 2014, a meteorologist in Wellington, New Zealand, received something that should have been completely impossible. A data file containing detailed weather reports for Wellington spanning an entire year, from January to December 2015. But here's the problem. It was still August 2014. The file was from the future. At first, Michael Harrison thought it was an elaborate prank. But as the months passed, something absolutely terrifying started to happen. The weather predictions in the file began coming true with perfect accuracy. Every storm, every sunny day, every temperature reading matched exactly what the mysterious file had predicted. For 4 months, it was flawless, Then, in January 2015, the predictions suddenly stopped matching reality. A massive storm that the file said would hit on January 15th never came. Instead, Wellington experienced its hottest day in decades. Michael became obsessed with understanding what had happened. He told colleagues that the file must have come from a parallel timeline that diverged from ours in January. He claimed he had figured out how it crossed over. 2 weeks later, his office was found empty, his computer wiped clean, and Michael Harrison was gone without a single trace. Michael Harrison had worked for Met Service, New Zealand's national weather authority, for over 8 years. He was known as a by-the-book scientist who relied on data, models, and proven meteorological methods. His colleagues described him as the least likely person to believe in anything paranormal or unexplainable. So, when he received the mysterious data file on August 19, 2014, his first instinct was to figure out who was playing a joke on him. The file arrived as an email attachment from an unknown sender with a blank subject line. The sender's address was a string of random numbers and letters that couldn't be traced. Inside was a single spreadsheet, file containing incredibly detailed weather data for Wellington. Daily temperature highs and lows, precipitation amounts, wind speeds, barometric pressure readings, humidity levels, and even UV index measurements. All of it dated from January 1st through December 31st, 2015. Michael checked the file's metadata and found something that made absolutely no sense. According to the file properties, it had been created on March 8th, 2015, a date that was still 6 months in the future. At first, Michael assumed someone had simply changed the date on their computer to create a fake timestamp. He saved the file and more or less forgot about it. But then September arrived, and Michael noticed something absolutely baffling. On September 3rd, Wellington experienced an unexpected cold snap, with temperatures dropping to 8 degrees Celsius. Michael remembered the mysterious file and checked it. The prediction for September 3rd, 2014, 8 degrees Celsius. He felt a chill run down his spine. He started checking the file every single day against the actual weather. September 7th, the file predicted rain, with 12 millimeters of precipitation. It rained exactly 12 millimeters. September 15th, the file predicted clear skies and 16 degrees, perfect match. September 23rd, strong winds from the northwest at 45 kilometers per hour, absolutely spot on. By the end of September, Michael had documented 30 consecutive days of perfect accuracy. This wasn't just getting general predictions right. This was precise, down to the exact temperature and millimeter of rainfall. Imagine how terrifying that must have been for him. He was watching the future unfold exactly as the file said it would. Michael shared the file with 2 colleagues in early October, swearing them to secrecy. They monitored it together, and the perfect accuracy continued through October, November, and December. Every single day matched the predictions flawlessly. They checked historical weather data to see if someone might have just copied past years, but the patterns didn't match any previous year. This was unique data that perfectly predicted weather that hadn't happened yet. By late December, all 3 meteorologists were convinced they were dealing with something impossible. Now, here's where everything changes. On January 1st, 2015, the file predicted partly cloudy skies with a high of 19 degrees. Wellington got exactly that. January 2nd through January 14th continued the pattern of perfect accuracy. But then came January 15th. The file predicted a severe storm system would hit Wellington with heavy rain, winds up to 80 kilometers per hour, and temperatures dropping to 11 degrees. Michael and his colleagues prepared for it. They even issued preliminary weather warnings based on the file's predictions. But January 15th arrived and absolutely nothing happened. No storm, no rain, no wind. Instead, Wellington experienced one of the hottest days of the summer, reaching 28 degrees Celsius. The prediction was completely wrong, for the first time. From that day forward, the file's predictions never matched reality again. It was as if the timeline had split at exactly that moment. Michael became obsessed with understanding what had happened. He told his colleagues that the file must have come from a parallel version of Wellington, where different weather patterns occurred after January 15th. He theorized that something must have caused the timelines to diverge at that exact point. Think about how insane that is. For 4 months, Michael had been watching his reality perfectly match another timeline's recorded history. Then suddenly, the two realities went different directions. Michael spent the next 2 weeks researching parallel universe theories, quantum mechanics, and dimensional physics. He reached out to physicists at Victoria University, asking questions about timeline branching and reality divergence. His colleagues said he barely slept, constantly talking about convergence points and dimensional data transfer. On January 28, 2015, Michael told his closest colleague that he had figured it out. He said he knew exactly how the file had crossed from one timeline to another, and he believed he could replicate the process. He said he was going to prove it that night. The next morning, Michael's office was found empty. His computer had been completely wiped, with every file deleted and the hard drive formatted. His personal belongings were gone. Security footage showed him leaving the building at 11:47 p.m. on January 28th, carrying a laptop bag, but he was never seen again. His apartment was found undisturbed, his car still in his parking space. Police conducted an extensive search, but found not a single trace of Michael Harrison. The mysterious weather file, gone. The copies his colleagues had made also vanished from their computers overnight, with no explanation for how that could have happened. Some people think Michael simply had a breakdown and ran away. Others believe he faked the whole thing as an elaborate hoax before disappearing. But here's what nobody can explain. 2 independent meteorologists confirmed they saw the file and witnessed months of perfect predictions. Met Service has records of Michael checking historical data and unusual patterns during those months. And most unsettling of all, how did a file accurately predict 4 months of weather with perfect precision? So, was the Wellington weather file really data that leaked from a parallel timeline? Did Michael Harrison discover how information crosses between realities and follow that path himself? And if our timeline diverged from another in January 2015, what happened in that other Wellington that caused the split? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely fascinating at the same time. How would you react if you found a yearbook from your old high school, but you didn't recognize a single person in it? In 2017, a woman named Jennifer Cole was cleaning out her grandmother's attic in Ashford, Connecticut, when she discovered a yearbook from Ashford High School dated 1985. Jennifer herself had graduated from Ashford High in 1985, so naturally, she opened it with excitement, expecting to see familiar faces. Instead, what she found made absolutely no sense. The yearbook looked authentic, the layout was correct, the school mascot was the same, even the principal's name matched, but not a single student photograph showed anyone Jennifer recognized. Not her classmates, not her teachers, not even herself. It was as if this yearbook documented a completely different group of students who had attended the same school in the same year. Jennifer brought the yearbook to a school reunion, and the reaction was immediate shock. Other graduates examined it closely, and everyone agreed. These were not their classmates. Jennifer began investigating obsessively, convinced that the yearbook had somehow crossed over from a parallel version of Ashford. She contacted researchers, appeared on local news, and documented everything. Then one morning in November 2017, her family woke up to find her gone. The yearbook was left open on her kitchen table to a page with a handwritten note in the margin that said, "They're the same. We're the copies." Jennifer had been helping her 87-year-old grandmother sort through decades of accumulated belongings in preparation for moving to an assisted living facility. The attic was filled with boxes of old clothes, furniture, and family memorabilia. The yearbook was inside a cardboard box along with other items from the 1980s, tucked between some old magazines and photo albums. At first glance, it looked exactly like Jennifer's own yearbook that she kept on a shelf at home. Same maroon cover, same gold lettering that read, Ashford High School Trojans, class of 1985. Same school crest embossed on the front. But when Jennifer opened it and flipped to the senior class photos, her excitement turned to complete confusion. She didn't recognize a single face, not one. She looked for herself in the alphabetical listing and found a photograph in her spot, but it wasn't her. It was a completely different girl with the name Jennifer Cole printed underneath. The photo showed someone with different hair, different features, different everything. Jennifer felt her hands start to shake as she flipped through more pages. Every single student was unfamiliar. Every teacher photo showed people she had never seen before. Yet all the names were listed where they should be. The clubs and sports teams were the same ones she remembered, and even the class motto matched the one from her own yearbook. Think about how unsettling this is. Imagine finding a yearbook with your name in it, from your school, from your graduation year. But the person in the photo isn't you. Jennifer immediately called several of her former classmates, and on August 12, 2017, she brought the mysterious yearbook to a planned class reunion at a local restaurant. 23 members of the Ashford High class of 1985 were there, and when Jennifer showed them the yearbook, the room went completely silent. Everyone passed it around, examining it closely, and the consensus was unanimous and absolutely baffling. These were not their classmates. These were complete strangers. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. Jennifer's friend Robert Chen, who had been class president in 1985, found his own name listed as class president in the alternate yearbook. But the photo showed a different person entirely. The student council page listed the same positions and the same officer names from their actual class, but every single face was wrong. It was as if someone had taken their exact graduating class, kept all the names and activities identical, but replaced every person with someone else. Pretty insane, right? Jennifer became obsessed with solving the mystery. She had the yearbook analyzed by a document expert who confirmed it was genuinely printed in 1985 using the same printing techniques and paper stock that would have been used for school yearbooks at that time. It wasn't a modern forgery or reproduction. She contacted yearbook printing companies who verified that the publisher listed, Jostens, did produce Ashford High's yearbooks in the 1980s, but they had no record of printing two different versions for 1985. Jennifer even tracked down the school's former photography teacher, who was retired but still living in Connecticut. When she showed him the yearbook, he examined it for several minutes before saying something that froze Jennifer's blood cold. He said the photos were taken with the same camera and lighting setup he used in 1985, but he had absolutely no memory of photographing any of these students. By October 2017, Jennifer had appeared on 2 local news programs and a regional radio show discussing the mysterious yearbook. She openly theorized that it had somehow crossed over from a parallel reality, where different students had attended Ashford High in 1985. She created a detailed photo comparison showing the alternate yearbook next to her own, highlighting how every structural element was identical, while every person was different. She started a blog documenting her investigation and received emails from others claiming similar experiences with alternate documents from their own pasts. Jennifer told her sister that she had begun to understand something profound about the nature of reality. She said that if a parallel Ashford High existed, then there must be a parallel version of herself somewhere, living a different life. She became increasingly convinced that the yearbook wasn't just a random object that had crossed over, but that it had been placed in her grandmother's attic deliberately, as a message or a sign. On November 7, 2017, Jennifer told her husband she was close to figuring out how the yearbook had arrived in our reality. She said she believed there were specific locations where objects could slip between parallel worlds, and that she thought she knew where one of those locations was. The next morning, Jennifer's husband woke up to find her side of the bed empty. Her car was in the driveway, her phone was charging on the nightstand, but Jennifer was gone. In the kitchen, the alternate yearbook was lying open on the table to the senior class photos page, and there, in the margin next to one of the student photos, someone had written in handwriting that matched Jennifer's, "They're the same. We're the copies." Police searched extensively, but found not a single trace of Jennifer Cole. The yearbook disappeared within days, with her family claiming they never saw it after that morning. Some skeptics argue that Jennifer staged an elaborate hoax and planned her disappearance. Others think she had a psychological breakdown, triggered by finding an old yearbook that someone had customized as a prank decades earlier. But here's what nobody can explain. 23 witnesses saw the yearbook at the reunion and confirmed it showed strangers instead of their classmates. A document expert verified it was authentically from 1985, and the retired photography teacher confirmed the photos were taken with his equipment but showed students he never photographed. So, was the Ashford yearbook really a document from a parallel reality? Did Jennifer Cole discover the truth about how objects cross between worlds and follow that path herself? And what did that final note mean? They're the same. We're the copies. Was Jennifer saying that her reality was the duplicate and the yearbook came from the original? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time. In the summer of 2013, transit workers in Portland, Oregon discovered something extraordinarily strange in a storage room at the main bus depot. A complete set of city transit maps, professionally printed and laminated, showing routes and stops that didn't exist. At first, Supervisor David Kumar thought they were old maps from a previous decade or perhaps proposals for future expansion. But when he looked closer, he realized something was deeply wrong. The maps showed the current date. They had the correct year printed on them, but the routes made no sense. Bus lines that didn't exist. Stops in neighborhoods that had different names. And most bizarrely, the maps referenced landmarks and buildings that weren't there. A Portland Space Museum that had never been built. A West Side monorail that had never been proposed. David became convinced these maps had come from an alternate version of Portland, one where the city had developed differently. He began documenting everything, comparing the maps to actual city planning records, trying to understand how they had appeared. His colleagues thought he was losing his mind, but David was certain he was onto something massive. In October 2013, he told his wife he had found proof of where the maps came from. He said he was going to the location marked on one of the maps as Dimensional Transit Hub. He never came home. The maps disappeared along with him. David Kumar had worked for TriMet, Portland's public transportation agency, for 19 years. He was responsible for overseeing the maintenance and organization of the main bus depot on Northwest Glissant Street. On July 23, 2013, David and two other workers were cleaning out a storage room that hadn't been accessed in months when they found a sealed cardboard box labeled Current Transit Maps, 2013. The box was sitting on a shelf between cleaning supplies and old equipment manuals. Nobody remembered it being delivered, and there was no shipping label or invoice attached. Inside the box were approximately 200 laminated transit maps, the kind that would normally be displayed at bus stops throughout the city. They looked completely official. The TriMet logo was in the correct position. The printing quality was professional. The paper stock matched what TriMet used for their actual maps. But when David unfolded one and examined it, he immediately knew something was wrong. The map showed Portland, but it wasn't the Portland he knew. Imagine looking at a map of your own city and seeing streets in the wrong places. That's exactly what David experienced. The map showed a bus route called the Blue Line Express that ran through Northwest Portland to a stop labeled Portland Space Museum, 23rd Avenue. David had lived in Portland his entire life. There was no Space Museum anywhere in the city, and there certainly wasn't one on 23rd Avenue. He checked another map and found a route connecting downtown to something called the West Side Monorail Terminal at a location that was actually just a parking lot in our reality. A third map showed a neighborhood called New Cascadia, in an area David knew as the Pearl District. Now here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. David started comparing the alternate maps to real TriMet maps side by side. Some elements were identical. The transit center locations were the same. The river was in the right place. The street grid matched. But then there were these impossible differences scattered throughout. Bus stops at buildings that didn't exist. Routes serving landmarks that had never been constructed. And most bizarrely, all the maps were dated summer 2013 and included a printed revision date of June 15, 2013, just weeks before David found them. David brought the maps to his supervisor, who initially dismissed them as mock-ups for a proposal or perhaps materials for a city planning exercise. But David wasn't convinced. He spent his evenings researching Portland's development history, trying to find any record of proposals for a space museum or a monorail system. He found nothing. No city council discussions, no planning documents, no architectural proposals. These landmarks had never been suggested, let alone built. Think about how strange that is. Someone had created detailed professional transit maps for a version of Portland that didn't exist. By August, David had become obsessed with the maps. He took photographs of them and created a detailed comparison chart showing every difference between the alternate maps and real Portland. He discovered 14 major landmarks that appeared on the maps, but didn't exist in our reality, and 37 bus routes with numbers that weren't in TriMet's system. His colleagues started to worry about him. His wife later told investigators that David talked constantly about parallel realities and alternate timelines. He believed the maps had somehow crossed over from a dimension where Portland had developed differently, perhaps where the city had invested more heavily in public transportation and cultural institutions. But then David noticed something that changed everything. On one of the alternate maps, near the intersection of SW 10th Avenue and Morrison Street, there was a small icon he hadn't seen before. It was marked with a symbol that looked like two overlapping circles, and next to it were the words Dimensional Transit Hub. David became convinced this was the location where the maps had crossed over from the parallel Portland. He told his supervisor he believed there was some kind of doorway or weak point in reality at that specific intersection. In early October, David took vacation time from work to investigate. He spent days at that intersection, observing it at different times, taking measurements, and documenting everything. His wife said he was barely sleeping, consumed by the idea that he was on the verge of a massive discovery. On October 17, 2013, David came home excited and told his wife he had finally figured it out. He said he had detected unusual electromagnetic readings at the intersection and that he believed the dimensional crossing was real. He said he was going back that night to prove it once and for all. David left his house at 9:30 p.m., carrying a backpack with a camera, a notebook, and several of the alternate transit maps. Security footage from a nearby business showed him arriving at the SW 10th and Morrison intersection at 10:15 p.m. The footage shows him standing in the middle of the intersection, looking around, apparently taking readings with some kind of device. Then, at 10:47 p.m., the camera captured something absolutely baffling. There was a brief distortion in the video, lasting less than 2 seconds, like interference or a glitch. When the image cleared, David Kumar was gone, completely vanished from the frame. Police reviewed the footage extensively, but couldn't explain the distortion or David's disappearance. There were no cars passing at that moment. No one else was visible on the street. David simply disappeared between one frame and the next. His backpack was found near the curb the next morning, but his camera and notebook were gone, and so were all the alternate transit maps. His house was searched, and every single one of the 200 maps from the box at the depot had vanished. TriMet claims they have no record of ever finding such maps. Some skeptics believe David had a mental breakdown and staged his own disappearance, somehow evading the cameras. Others think the whole thing was an elaborate hoax and the maps never existed. But here's what nobody can explain. Multiple transit workers saw the maps and confirmed they showed impossible routes and landmarks. Security footage clearly shows David vanishing from that intersection. And most unsettling of all, how did 200 professionally printed maps appear in a sealed box at a transit depot with no delivery record? So, were the Portland transit maps really documents from a parallel reality? Did David Kumar discover the exact location where dimensions intersect and cross over himself? And if there really is another Portland out there with a space museum and a monorail, what else is different in that world? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time. What happens when financial records appear from a version of reality where everything is slightly different? In 2015, an employee at a major bank in Singapore discovered a box of account statements and transaction records that should not have existed. The documents were dated correctly, used the bank's proper formatting, and appeared completely legitimate. But when the employee, a fraud investigator named Priya Sharma, began cross-referencing the account numbers, she hit a wall. None of them existed in the bank's system. The clients listed couldn't be found. The transactions referenced accounts that had never been opened. Priya initially thought she had uncovered a sophisticated fraud scheme, but as she dug deeper, the mystery only intensified. Some of the account holders matched the names of real people in Singapore, but their financial histories were completely different. Wealthy individuals who, in our reality, were middle class. Business owners who had never started companies. Priya documented everything meticulously, convinced that these documents had somehow crossed over from a parallel financial system. She told her supervisor she had a theory about interdimensional data corruption. 3 weeks later, Priya failed to show up for work. Her apartment was found exactly as she had left it, with one exception. On her desk was a note in her handwriting that read, "The accounts are real. I'm going to check my balance." Priya Sharma had worked in the fraud investigation department at United Overseas Bank in Singapore for 7 years. She had a reputation for being thorough, analytical, and impossible to fool. Her job was to detect fraudulent accounts, money laundering schemes, and financial irregularities. On May 3, 2015, a maintenance worker clearing out an unused storage room in the bank's headquarters on Raffles Place found a sealed archive box labeled Q2 2015 account statements and brought it to Priya's department, thinking it might have been misplaced. When Priya opened the box, she found it contained approximately 300 printed account statements, transaction histories, and client profiles. Everything looked completely legitimate. The documents used the bank's official letterhead, had the correct logos and formatting, and were printed on the same paper stock the bank used for customer statements. The documents were dated between April and June 2015, which meant they were current. At first, Priya assumed someone had accidentally filed duplicate statements in the wrong location. But when she started scanning the account numbers into the system to refile them properly, something absolutely baffling happened. The computer returned "account not found" for every single one. Think about this for a moment. These weren't just a few mismatched documents. This was a box containing hundreds of detailed financial records for accounts that didn't exist in the bank's database. Priya tried different search parameters. She checked archived records. She contacted the IT department to see if there had been a recent system migration or database error. Nothing. These account numbers had never been in the system. Ever. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. Priya started looking at the names on the accounts, and several of them were familiar. One statement was for a man named Daniel Tan, showing a balance of $847,000 in a premium savings account. Priya knew that name because Daniel Tan was actually a real customer of the bank. But when she pulled up his actual account, he had only $23,000, and it was in a basic checking account, not a premium savings account. The account numbers were completely different, but the personal information matched. Same birth date, same residential address, same NRIC number. It was Daniel Tan, but in these alternate documents, he was wealthy. Priya found 6 more cases like this. Real customers of the bank who appeared in the mysterious documents with completely different financial profiles. A woman named Lisa Chen, who, in our reality, worked as a teacher and had modest savings, appeared in the alternate documents as the owner of a successful import-export business with over $2 million in assets. A man named Rajesh Kumar, who was an accountant in our reality, showed up in the documents as a tech entrepreneur with multiple business accounts and investment portfolios worth millions. These weren't just different account numbers. These were completely different life trajectories documented through their finances. Priya spent weeks investigating every angle. She brought the documents to her supervisor, who was equally baffled. They consulted with the bank's security team, who confirmed the documents appeared authentic, but couldn't explain their origin. Priya even took the extraordinary step of contacting 3 of the individuals whose names appeared in both the real system and the alternate documents. The conversations were absolutely chilling. When Priya showed Daniel Tan the statement indicating he had $847,000, he stared at it in silence before saying, "I almost started an investment firm in 2008, but I backed out at the last minute. If I hadn't, maybe..." He couldn't finish the sentence. By June 2015, Priya had become convinced she was looking at financial records from a parallel version of Singapore. She told colleagues that the documents must have somehow crossed over from an alternate reality where these people had made different choices, taken different risks, and ended up with completely different financial outcomes. She began researching quantum mechanics and parallel universe theories, trying to understand how physical documents could transfer between dimensions. Her supervisor later told investigators that Priya had developed a theory she called interdimensional data corruption, suggesting that financial information could leak between parallel realities under certain conditions. Priya documented everything in a detailed report that ran over 50 pages. She created comparison charts showing the real customers versus their alternate counterparts. She analyzed patterns in the account numbers, looking for clues about how they might differ from the bank's numbering system. She even found something absolutely insane. Several of the transactions in the alternate documents referenced companies that didn't exist in our Singapore: a Singapore Space Industries Limited, a Meridian Quantum Computing Corp., business entities that had never been registered. On June 28, 2015, Priya told her supervisor she had a breakthrough. She said she believed the documents had appeared in that specific storage room because it was located in a part of the building where electromagnetic fields from the server room created unusual conditions. She theorized that this might have created a temporary bridge between realities, allowing the physical documents to cross over. Her supervisor thought she was becoming too obsessed with the case and suggested she take some time off. Priya refused. She said she was close to proving her theory. 3 days later, on July 1st, Priya didn't show up for work. Her colleagues called her phone repeatedly, but got no answer. When building security checked her apartment that evening, they found everything seemingly normal. Her laptop was open on her desk. Her phone was charging in the bedroom. Her keys and purse were on the kitchen counter. But Priya was gone. And on her desk, written on a piece of bank letterhead in her handwriting, was a note that said, "The accounts are real. I'm going to check my balance." Police launched an investigation, but found not a single trace of Priya Sharma. Security footage from her apartment building showed her entering on the evening of June 30th, but never leaving. Her bank accounts were never accessed again. Her passport remained in her apartment. And most mysteriously, the box of alternate financial documents disappeared from the bank. The storage room where it had been found was searched thoroughly, but the documents were gone. The bank claims they have no record of Priya's investigation or the mysterious statements. Some skeptics say Priya fabricated the entire thing as a cover for embezzlement and fled the country somehow. Others believe she had a psychological episode and the documents never existed. But here's what nobody can explain. Multiple bank employees saw the documents and confirmed they appeared authentic. Priya's 50-page report was real and colleagues had read it. And 3 customers confirmed that Priya had shown them alternate versions of their own financial records. So, were the Singapore banking documents really records from a parallel financial system? Did Priya Sharma discover how information crosses between realities and follow that path to check her own balance in another world? And if these alternate records are real, does that mean somewhere there's another version of you living a completely different financial life? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely fascinating at the same time. In April 2018, a detective in Vancouver, Canada, received a package that would haunt him until the day he vanished. Inside were copies of police case files for crimes that had never been committed, at least not in our version of Vancouver. Detective Robert Chen opened the package expecting routine paperwork, but instead found detailed investigation reports for murders, robberies, and assaults that had never happened in his city. The files were professionally formatted, included proper case numbers, and even had evidence photographs attached. But none of the crimes were in the database, none of the victims existed, and none of the suspects could be found. What made this even more disturbing was that some of the locations matched real places in Vancouver, but the crimes described simply never occurred there. Robert became obsessed with solving this mystery. He spent months verifying every detail, interviewing people who lived at the addresses mentioned, and consulting with other departments. He told his partner that he believed the files had come from a parallel Vancouver where different crimes had taken place. He said he was getting close to understanding how the files had crossed over. In September 2018, Robert sent his partner a cryptic email that said, "I found the bridge. I'm going across." He was never heard from again. The files disappeared along with him. Detective Robert Chen had been with the Vancouver Police Department for 14 years, working primarily in the Major Crimes Unit. He was methodical, skeptical, and known for closing cases that other detectives had given up on. On April 17, 2018, a manila envelope arrived at his desk with no return address and no postage. It had been left at the front desk of the police station, but security footage showed no clear view of who had dropped it off. Inside were 17 photocopied police case files, each several pages thick. Robert assumed they were case files being transferred from another department, or perhaps cold cases being reopened. But as he read through the first file, his confusion grew. The file documented a homicide that had allegedly occurred on March 3, 2018, at a residence on the West 12th Avenue. The victim was listed as Catherine Morrison, age 34. The report was incredibly detailed, including witness statements, autopsy findings, and crime scene photographs. But when Robert searched the database, he found absolutely nothing. No Catherine Morrison had been reported murdered. No homicide had occurred at that address on that date. The case number didn't exist in the system. Think about how unsettling this is. Robert was reading what appeared to be a legitimate police investigation for a murder that never happened. He checked the second file. It documented an armed robbery at a convenience store on Commercial Drive on February 18, 2018. The report included the store owner's statement, security footage timestamps, and descriptions of two suspects. But when Robert called that convenience store, the owner said no robbery had ever occurred there. Not in February, not ever. The store's security footage from that date showed a completely normal day of business. Now, here's where it gets absolutely insane. Robert went through all 17 files, and every single one documented a crime that had never happened in Vancouver. A stabbing on Granville Street, a break-in in Kitsilano, an assault in Stanley Park. The locations were all real places, but the crimes were completely fictional, or at least, they were fictional in our reality. What made Robert's blood run cold was the level of detail in the reports. These weren't vague descriptions or hoaxes written by someone without police knowledge. These files contained proper police terminology, correct report formatting, evidence chain of custody documentation, and forensic details that only someone in law enforcement would know how to write. Robert brought the files to his partner, Detective Amanda Price, and together they started investigating. They visited every address mentioned in the files. On West 12th Avenue, where Catherine Morrison had allegedly been murdered, they found the house occupied by a family who had lived there for 5 years. No one named Catherine Morrison lived there, or had ever lived there. They checked with the medical examiner's office for any record of the autopsy mentioned in the file. Nothing. They contacted the forensics lab about the evidence supposedly processed in the case. No record existed. By June 2018, Robert had become completely obsessed with the mystery. He spent every spare moment analyzing the files, comparing them to real Vancouver Police Department documents to verify their authenticity. He consulted with document experts who confirmed the files appeared to be genuine police reports, printed on the correct paper stock and using the proper formats. From 2018, the case numbers followed the VPD's numbering system, but they were numbers that had never been assigned in our reality. Robert even found something absolutely baffling. Several of the crimes mentioned witnesses or suspects with names that matched real people in Vancouver. When he tracked them down and interviewed them, they confirmed they had never witnessed or been involved in the crimes described. Imagine this scenario. You're a detective reading a police report that says you witnessed a murder. The report includes your name, your address, even quotes from your supposed witness statement. But you have absolutely no memory of it because it never happened. That's exactly what Robert discovered. 3 different people were listed as witnesses in the alternate case files, and all 3 confirmed to Robert that they had never witnessed the crimes they were supposedly testifying about. Robert began theorizing that the files had come from a parallel version of Vancouver, where different crimes had occurred. He told Amanda that he believed the criminal landscape of a city might diverge across parallel realities, with different people making different choices, leading to completely different criminal events. He started researching quantum mechanics and the many worlds interpretation of reality. His apartment walls became covered with notes, timelines, and theories about how physical documents could cross between dimensions. In August 2018, Robert made a breakthrough. He noticed that all 17 crimes documented in the alternate files had occurred within a specific geographic area of Vancouver, roughly a 3-kilometer radius centered around the intersection of Main Street and Broadway. He became convinced this location was significant, that it might represent a weak point between parallel realities. He told Amanda he believed the files had physically crossed over at that intersection, possibly in the mailbox or postal facility located there. Robert spent weeks staking out that intersection, taking electromagnetic readings, photographing the area at different times of day, and interviewing postal workers. His colleagues started to worry about his mental state. His supervisor ordered him to take time off, but Robert refused. He said he was close to solving the biggest mystery of his career. On September 12, 2018, Robert sent Amanda an email at 11:47 p.m. that simply said, "I found the bridge, I'm going across." Amanda called him immediately, but his phone went straight to voicemail. The next morning, Robert's apartment was found empty. His car was in the parking garage. His wallet and keys were on his kitchen counter. But Robert Chen was gone, and so were all 17 alternate police files. His laptop had been wiped clean, with every file deleted. Security footage from his building showed him leaving at midnight, carrying a backpack, but cameras on the surrounding streets never captured him again. It was as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. Police conducted an extensive investigation, but they found not a single trace of Robert Chen. His bank accounts were never accessed. His phone was never turned on again, and absolutely no one could explain what had happened to him or where the mysterious case files had come from. The Vancouver Police Department officially closed the investigation after 6 months, concluding that Robert had likely suffered a mental breakdown. But here's what nobody can explain. Amanda Price confirmed she had seen the files and read them herself. She even made copies of 2 of them before they disappeared, though those copies also vanished mysteriously from her locked desk drawer. Multiple witnesses confirmed that Robert had interviewed them about crimes they supposedly witnessed but had no memory of. And security experts verified that Robert's email was sent from his actual account at 11:47 p.m. on September 12th. So, were the Vancouver police files really case reports from a parallel reality where different crimes had occurred? Did Robert Chen discover the location where dimensions intersect and cross over himself to investigate those crimes firsthand? And if there really is another Vancouver out there with a different criminal history, what else is different in that world? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time. Imagine discovering detailed architectural blueprints for buildings that were never constructed. In 2016, a construction worker in Berlin, Germany, found a sealed tube containing dozens of blueprints during the demolition of an old office building. The blueprints were for various structures throughout Berlin, all drawn with professional precision and dated from the 1960s through the 1990s. But when architect Klaus Weber examined them, he realized something impossible. These blueprints showed alternate versions of famous Berlin landmarks: the Brandenburg Gate with a different design, the Berlin Wall with checkpoints in locations that didn't match historical records, and most fascinating of all, massive buildings that were never built, drawn as if they had been standing for decades. Klaus became convinced these blueprints came from a parallel version of Berlin, one where the city had developed along a different architectural path. He began researching obsessively, comparing the blueprints to actual construction records, trying to understand their origin. He gave lectures about parallel timelines and showed the blueprints as evidence. Then, in December 2016, Klaus told his wife he had finally figured it out. He said the blueprints contained coordinates to the exact location where realities overlapped. He went to that location in Berlin. His car was found there 3 days later, empty. Klaus Weber was gone. The blueprints have never been found. The discovery happened on March 8, 2016, during the demolition of a 7-story office building on Friedrichstrasse that had been abandoned since the early 2000s. Construction worker Thomas Muller was clearing debris from a wall cavity when he found a large cylindrical tube wedged behind old pipes. The tube was made of metal, sealed with wax, and showed signs of significant age. When Thomas opened it, he found 37 rolled architectural blueprints inside, each one professionally drafted on translucent vellum paper. The blueprints were labeled with dates, locations, and architect names, all appearing completely legitimate. Thomas brought them to his supervisor, who recognized their potential historical value and contacted Klaus Weber, a respected architect and architectural historian in Berlin. Klaus had spent 25 years studying Berlin's architectural evolution, particularly the dramatic changes that occurred during and after the Cold War division. When he unrolled the first blueprint on his drafting table, he expected to see plans for some forgotten building project from East or West Berlin. What he saw instead made absolutely no sense. The blueprint showed the Brandenburg Gate, one of Berlin's most iconic landmarks, but the design was wrong. The structure had the same basic position and orientation, but the columns were arranged differently, the proportions were altered, and there were architectural elements that had never existed on the actual Brandenburg Gate. Think about how bizarre this is. Klaus was looking at professional blueprints for a version of the Brandenburg Gate that was never built. The drawing style and techniques were authentic to the 1960s. The measurements were precise. The notations were in German, using proper architectural terminology. But the building it depicted didn't match reality. Klaus examined the second blueprint and found plans for a section of the Berlin Wall showing a checkpoint station at a location where no checkpoint had ever existed. The blueprint was dated 1973 and showed guard towers, vehicle inspection areas, and administrative buildings at coordinates that, in our reality, were just empty stretches of the wall. Now, here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. As Klaus went through all 37 blueprints, he found plans for buildings throughout Berlin that were never constructed. A massive Congress hall in Mitte that was supposedly built in 1978. A television tower in Charlottenburg dated 1985, different from the famous Fernsehturm that actually exists in Alexanderplatz. A university complex in Kreuzberg from 1991 that was never proposed in our timeline. But these weren't just conceptual sketches or rejected proposals. The blueprints were drawn as construction documents, complete with structural specifications, material lists, and contractor stamps. They were designed as if these buildings had actually been built. Klaus became obsessed with understanding where these blueprints came from. He spent months researching Berlin's architectural archives, looking for any record of these projects. He contacted elderly architects who had worked in Berlin during the Cold War, showing them the blueprints and asking if they remembered these proposals. None of them did. He examined city planning documents from the 1960s through 1990s, searching for any mention of these buildings. Nothing. These structures had never been proposed, designed, or built in our version of Berlin. By August 2016, Klaus had developed a radical theory. He believed the blueprints had come from a parallel version of Berlin, where the city's architectural development had followed a different path. Perhaps in that reality, different political decisions were made, different architects were commissioned, or different historical events occurred that led to these alternate structures being built. He began giving lectures at universities and architectural societies, presenting the blueprints as potential evidence of parallel realities. Some colleagues thought he was brilliant. Others thought he had lost his mind. But then Klaus noticed something that changed everything. On several of the blueprints, in the corner where the architect's stamp would normally be, there was a small symbol he hadn't seen before. It looked like two overlapping squares rotated at different angles, creating a geometric pattern. And next to the symbol, on 3 different blueprints, were coordinates: 52 to 30, 17N, 13 to 22, SES 43E. Klaus plotted these coordinates on a map of Berlin and discovered they pointed to a specific location in the Tiergarten, Berlin's famous park, near a small pond called Neuer See. Klaus became convinced that these coordinates marked the location where the blueprints had crossed over from the parallel Berlin. He told his wife Anna that he believed there were certain places where the boundaries between realities were thin, and that this spot in the Tiergarten might be one of them. He theorized that somehow, decades ago, these blueprints had slipped through from an alternate dimension and ended up hidden in that office building. In November 2016, Klaus started visiting the coordinates regularly, taking measurements, photographing the area, and searching for any unusual phenomena. His colleagues said Klaus became increasingly isolated and obsessive. He stopped taking on new architectural projects and spent all his time studying the blueprints and visiting the Tiergarten location. On December 3, 2016, Klaus told Anna he had finally figured it out. He said he had discovered a pattern in the architectural drawings that revealed the exact time and method by which objects could cross between realities. He said the coordinates weren't just where the blueprints had crossed over, but where a permanent gateway existed. Anna begged him not to go, but Klaus was determined. He said he needed to prove his theory once and for all. Klaus left his house at 6:30 p.m. on December 3rd, carrying a backpack with the blueprints, a camera, and his research notes. He drove to the Tiergarten and parked near the Neuer See. Security footage from a nearby cafe showed him walking toward the coordinates at approximately 7:15 p.m. That was the last confirmed sighting of Klaus Weber. When he didn't return home that night, Anna called the police. They found his car 3 days later, still parked near the pond. The doors were locked, and Klaus's phone was on the front seat. But Klaus was gone, and so were the blueprints, his camera, and all his research notes. Police searched the Tiergarten extensively, but found not a single trace of Klaus. Search dogs tracked his scent to the exact coordinates he had marked on the blueprints, then lost it completely, as if Klaus had simply vanished from that spot. Divers searched the Neuer See, thinking Klaus might have fallen in, but found nothing. To this day, absolutely no one knows what happened to Klaus Weber, or where the mysterious blueprints are now. Some skeptics believe Klaus fabricated the entire story and staged his disappearance to escape personal problems. Others think he had a psychological breakdown, and the blueprints were either forgeries or misidentified historical documents. But here's what nobody can explain. Multiple witnesses, including the construction worker who found them, and several of Klaus's colleagues, confirmed the blueprints existed and showed impossible structures. The Architectural Society where Klaus lectured has photographs of him presenting the blueprints, though the images are too blurry to show details. And most mysteriously, how did Klaus vanish from a public park without a trace? So, were the Berlin architecture blueprints really designs from a parallel city where different buildings were constructed? Did Klaus Weber discover the exact location where dimensions overlap and cross over himself? And if there really is another Berlin out there with different landmarks and structures, what other differences exist in that world? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time. This is the case that makes everything else look simple in comparison. In 2010, a data analyst in Chicago named Thomas Reed was hired to digitize old census records from the 1990s. What he found during this routine project would lead to his complete disappearance and one of the most baffling mysteries in modern history. While scanning records from 1993, Thomas discovered a second complete census dataset for Chicago that didn't match the official records. It was stored on aging computer disks in a forgotten filing cabinet, and it contained population data for the entire city. But here's what makes this absolutely insane. The data didn't match reality. Neighborhoods had different population sizes. Some streets didn't exist. Some existed but had different names. And when Thomas began looking up specific individuals, he found something that froze his blood cold. Thousands of people listed in this alternate census were completely unknown. They had no social security numbers, no birth certificates, no records of ever existing. Yet the data was incredibly detailed, showing their addresses, occupations, and family members. Thomas spent months investigating, convinced he had discovered evidence of a parallel Chicago that had somehow merged its data with our reality. He created detailed comparison charts. He tracked down addresses. He even found a handful of people who appeared in both datasets, but with completely different life histories. In March 2011, Thomas called a meeting with city officials, saying he had proof that would change everything we understand about reality. He said the census data was a leak from a parallel world, and he knew how it had crossed over. That meeting never happened. Thomas vanished from his apartment the night before. The census data was seized by authorities and has never been seen again. But the question remains, was Thomas Reed right? Did he discover proof that parallel worlds exist and that information can leak between them? And if so, where is he now? Is he still in our reality, or did he cross over to the other Chicago, the one that exists somewhere beyond our reach? A thought that is as terrifying as it is absolutely fascinating. Thomas Reed had worked as a data analyst for the City of Chicago's Department of Records for 6 years. He was known for being meticulous, detail-oriented, and somewhat obsessive about data accuracy. In August 2010, he was assigned to a long-term project digitizing census records from the 1990s that were still stored on old floppy disks and magnetic tape. The goal was to transfer everything to modern servers before the aging media became unreadable. It was supposed to be boring, routine work. Instead, it became the beginning of something absolutely mind-blowing. On September 14, 2010, Thomas was going through a filing cabinet in a basement storage room when he found a set of 3.5-inch floppy disks labeled Chicago Census 1993 Backup Set. The disks were in a sealed envelope at the back of a drawer, covered in dust. Thomas assumed they were duplicate copies of the official census data, so he loaded them onto his computer to verify the files before archiving them. But when he opened the first file and started comparing it to the official 1993 census records, something didn't match. The total population numbers were different. Not by a small margin, but by over 47,000 people. Think about how strange that is. Thomas was looking at 2 complete census datasets for the same city in the same year, but they showed different population counts. At first, he thought it might be a draft version or perhaps data from a different year that had been mislabeled. But as he dug deeper, the discrepancies became more and more disturbing. The alternate dataset showed neighborhoods with completely different demographics. The official census showed the Pilsen neighborhood with a population of approximately 44,000 in 1993. The alternate dataset showed 52,000. Lincoln Park showed 28,000 fewer residents in the alternate data than in the official records. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. Thomas started looking at individual entries in the alternate census data, and he found thousands of people who didn't exist in any other records. He randomly selected 50 names from the alternate dataset and ran them through Social Security databases, birth certificate records, and tax files. 43 of them returned 0 results. These people had no Social Security numbers, no birth certificates, no driver's licenses, no voting records, absolutely no trace of ever existing in our reality. Yet the census data for them was incredibly detailed. Full names, birth dates, addresses, occupations, family members, and household information. It was as if someone had meticulously documented a population of people who were never born. Thomas spent the next 2 months systematically comparing the data sets. He created massive spreadsheets showing the differences. He discovered that some streets listed in the alternate census didn't exist in Chicago. Others existed but had completely different names. A street called Meridian Boulevard appeared repeatedly in the alternate data, but there was no Meridian Boulevard anywhere in Chicago. When Thomas plotted the address ranges, he found it would have been located where Western Avenue runs in our reality. It was as if he was looking at a Chicago that had developed with a slightly different street layout. But then Thomas found something that sent chills down his spine. He discovered 12 individuals who appeared in both the official census and the alternate census with the same names and addresses, but with completely different life details. A man named David Martinez appeared in both datasets living at the same address on Ashland Avenue, but in the official census, he was listed as a construction worker with 2 children. In the alternate census, he was listed as a high school teacher with no children. Thomas tracked down the real David Martinez, who was indeed a construction worker, and confirmed he had 2 children and had never been a teacher. When Thomas showed him a printout of the alternate census entry with his name, David stared at it in silence for several minutes before saying, "I almost became a teacher. I was accepted to college for education, but I dropped out to take a construction job. If I hadn't dropped out, imagine discovering that." Thomas had found census data documenting a version of Chicago where people had made different life choices, where streets had different names, and where tens of thousands of completely different people existed. By December 2010, Thomas had become convinced he was looking at data from a parallel reality. He told colleagues at the Department of Records that he believed there had been some kind of dimensional data corruption in 1993, a moment when census information from an alternate Chicago had somehow merged with or replaced parts of the official data set in our reality. Thomas documented everything in a comprehensive report that ran over 200 pages. He included statistical analyses showing the population discrepancies, maps highlighting the street name differences, and case studies of individuals who appeared in both datasets with different life histories. He even developed a theory about how the data transfer might have occurred. He believed that in 1993, when government agencies were transitioning from paper records to digital systems, there was a moment of technological vulnerability where electromagnetic anomalies could have created a bridge between parallel realities, allowing data to leak through. By February 2011, Thomas had become obsessed with proving his theory. He spent every evening and weekend researching parallel universe theories, studying quantum mechanics, and corresponding with physicists about the possibility of information transfer between dimensions. His supervisor at the Department of Records later told investigators that Thomas had become increasingly withdrawn and intense, talking constantly about dimensional overlap and reality convergence. In early March, Thomas requested a meeting with senior city officials, claiming he had evidence that would revolutionize our understanding of reality itself. The meeting was scheduled for March 23, 2011, at City Hall. Thomas told his girlfriend the night before that he was finally going to reveal the truth about the parallel Chicago census. He said he had figured out not just that the data had crossed over, but exactly how and where it had happened. He mentioned something about a specific building in the Loop where the original census data had been processed in 1993, and said he believed that building contained a permanent weak point between realities. He told her he was going to propose that scientists investigate the location to see if the dimensional bridge was still active. Thomas never made it to that meeting. On the morning of March 23rd, his girlfriend went to his apartment to drive him to City Hall and found the door unlocked and the apartment empty. Thomas's car was in the parking lot. His phone was on the kitchen counter. His wallet and keys were on the table. But Thomas Reed was gone. Most unsettling of all, every copy of his 200-page report had vanished. His computer had been wiped clean. The backup drives he had been using were missing. And when his supervisor checked the office the next day, all of Thomas's research files and the original floppy disks containing the alternate census data had been removed from the secure storage room. City officials claimed they had no knowledge of Thomas's findings or his scheduled meeting. The Department of Records stated that no alternate census data had ever been discovered and that Thomas had never submitted any unusual reports. His girlfriend insisted that she had seen the data printouts and had read parts of his research. Several of Thomas's coworkers confirmed that he had shown them comparison charts and had talked extensively about the parallel census. But without the original files or any physical evidence, there was nothing to investigate. Police searched for Thomas but found not a single trace of him. His bank accounts were never accessed again. His phone was never turned on. And to this day, absolutely no one knows what happened to Thomas Reed or where the alternate census data is now. Some skeptics believe Thomas fabricated the entire story as part of an elaborate plan to disappear and start a new life. Others think he had a psychological breakdown and destroyed his own research before vanishing. But here's what nobody can explain. Multiple witnesses saw the alternate census data and confirmed it showed impossible information. David Martinez, the construction worker who appeared in both datasets, gave a sworn statement that Thomas had shown him census records with his name listing him as a teacher. And most mysteriously, how did Thomas and all evidence of his discovery disappear so completely in a single night? So, was the Chicago census data really information that leaked from a parallel reality? Did Thomas Reed discover proof that alternate versions of our world exist? And did he somehow cross over to that other Chicago? And if parallel worlds are real and information can transfer between them, what else might have slipped through that we haven't noticed yet? Could there be other files, other documents, other pieces of evidence from alternate realities hidden in forgotten archives, just waiting to be discovered? A thought that is extremely creepy and absolutely mind-blowing at the same time.